So my name is Patty Smith, and I've been working here at Bonnievale Environmental Education Center for a long time and coordinating salamander crossing brigades for a long time. But for those of you who are new to Bonnievale, I'm going to start by just telling you a few things about the other great stuff that happens here. Our homestead is on a little farm out in West Brattleboro where we have 60 acres and a lovely old farmhouse that's probably 200 years old. We have 2+ miles of walking trails that include a beautiful hilltop view, giant sugar maples. They're open dawn till dusk, and I'd really like to encourage you all to come and enjoy walking at Bonnievale. We offer science-based natural history programs in all of the regional schools and day camps when there is no school, summer, spring, winter. We are a hub for local wildlife rehabilitators. Look at these guys enjoying some watermelon. Little woodchucks. And we do programs like this, natural history programs, environmental issues programs, 50 a year. And all of these things and so much more are made possible by your donations and memberships. We're just starting our spring membership drive, and we would be so delighted if you joined us. I hope you will. For Salamander Crossing Brigades and Vernal Pools, I'm going to just tell you a few things about this remarkable salamander, the spotted salamander. These guys spend most of their lives underground. They're in the group called mole salamanders for that reason. They live in rodent tunnels and old root holes, and you would be amazed at the whole network of tunnels that exists in our soil. And these guys are down there eating all kinds of invertebrates. They love to eat worms and slugs and spiders and snails, and they are very territorial. They will defend an area of about 100 square feet, and if they encounter an intruder, and by an intruder I mean another spotted salamander, they'll challenge them by raising their head like this to look aggressive, and they'll do headbutting and they'll bite. These remarkable salamanders can also live a lot longer than you might think. They've been known to live in captivity for 20 years, and one skeleton up in Canada was aged using skeletochronology to be 32 years old. And once they have matured, once they've reached adulthood, studies show that they have a pretty good survival rate, 70 to 100% survival for adult salamanders, unless, of course, they have to cross roads. And in the winter, they manage to crawl their way down below the frost line where they remain dormant. And that's where they are as we speak here tonight. And they're waiting for a sign. I personally think the sign is when the soil above them gets warmer than the soil below them, but that's not all they need. They also need moisture. They breathe through their skins. Their skins need to stay moist or they'll desiccate. So they need moisture and they need it to be dark. They only come out after dark. And right now they're waiting. Remember, I'm just going to recap: solitary, eating bugs and slugs year after year after year. And now the magic moment comes.
So, why do these salamanders need to cross the road?
Dun, 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 dun. Whoops.
So, they are on their way to the vernal pool. So, what's a vernal pool? This is a pool that is filled with water in the spring. The word vernal means spring, and it's going to dry up usually by midsummer to fall. And the reason the amphibians love to breed there is because they are trying to avoid egg predation by fish. So fish need to live in permanent water, and there are a lot of other predators that also can only live in permanent water. So it's a trade-off for the amphibians. It's a risk to lay your eggs in a pool that's going to dry up for obvious reasons, but it's actually better in most cases than the risk of you losing them to fish predation. So these are wood frogs, and they migrate to the vernal pool as soon as it opens up. Here you can see that the ice hasn't even melted. They just woke up from spending the winter under the leaf litter with their body tissues completely frozen except the insides of their cells. And frogs fertilize their eggs externally. The male is gripping the female in this mating posture called amplexus. You can tell these are wood frog eggs rather than salamander eggs because you can see the contour of each individual egg in the mass. There are hundreds laid in each mass, and all of the wood frogs like to put their egg masses together in a giant pile, usually at one end of the pool. They're explosive breeders, which means they do it very quickly and they're done in like a week. So this eastern newt is one of the few egg predators that they do have to deal with in those pools. Now we're visiting a vernal pool at night with a headlamp. These are Jefferson salamanders. It's a rare species in Vermont, so if you find a pool that supports Jefferson salamanders, that's of great conservation value. And if you see one of these animals or their egg masses, you should take a picture and report it to the Vermont Reptile and Amphibian Atlas. This guy, of course, is our little mascot, the spotted salamander. It's a close cousin of the Jefferson salamander and about the same size. This one is in a hurry to get to the vernal pool because it's late to a very important party going on in the water there. The mating of salamanders is different from frogs in that they actually have internal fertilization, but they don't come into physical contact when that happens. The males have sperm packets called spermatophores, and they attach those to leaf litter or sticks in the water. They're bright white, so you might actually even see some in this video if you look closely. The female comes along and takes up the spermatophore into her body to fertilize the eggs. And there's fierce competition among the males to get the females to pick up their own genetic material. So they go around depositing new spermatophores on top of the ones of their rivals. And they even do a courtship dance to try to lead the female over to their own packet. This underwater communal mating strategy is called a congress, and it will happen on one of those warm, rainy nights when you're out there after you've helped them across the road. Later that night, they may go and form this congress. It's kind of hard to come upon such a thing, so I was very lucky to be able to film it. This population of salamanders is very fortunate that they don't have to cross any roads. They're in the middle of the Bellows Falls Village Forest.
I would encourage you all to go visit vernal pools on the rainy nights or the nights after salamander migration, immediately after, and see if you can spot a congress like that. I've never seen one.
This little guy just metamorphosed. I'm back again the next day, and it's a mole salamander, either a spotted or a Jefferson salamander. And it appears to have spent the winter as an aquatic larva in the pool and transformed in the spring instead of doing that at the end of the summer when the pool dries up. So this pool didn't dry up and probably doesn't in most years. These are the leftover spermatophores from the night before. And here are the egg masses of a Jefferson salamander. The spotted salamanders had just bred the night before. They hadn't laid their eggs yet. These sausage-shaped ones are the Jefferson salamander. Here's a spotted salamander egg mass with an even more substantial jelly coat on it than the Jeffersons.
Ready for the next
I am ready.
slide? Okay.
So these are some freshly laid wood frog eggs. And then next, there's the Jefferson salamander eggs, which are in a smaller bunch. They otherwise look pretty similar, but they're in a much smaller bunch, that little sausage shape, and they have the jelly mass around them, which the wood frogs do not. And this one is the spotted salamander. They are kind of variable in their color and size and shape, but generally more round than the Jefferson salamander egg masses. And if you look closely at the eggs, the distance from the embryo to the edge of the egg is a little bit greater in the spotted salamander than the Jeffersons. But the way that I can tell them apart for sure most of the time is to actually touch it. And if it feels more solid, it's the spotted. So, did we leave somebody out? You may be familiar with the spring peeper, who is also migrating at this time of year, but we didn't talk about it in the context of vernal pools because the spring peepers don't strongly prefer vernal pools to permanent water. They have a different strategy where they lay their eggs singly, and they're a little bit harder for the egg predators to just go and clean out the whole batch. So they will breed in lots of different types of wetlands. And back to you, Patty.
And now we get to the role of all of you. These amphibians have been inhabiting the Vermont landscape since sometime shortly after the glaciers receded, possibly using the same vernal pools as breeding habitat for thousands of years. And now into this ancient world of amphibian migration, we have houses and roads and all kinds of hazards, human infrastructure. And this is why we need salamander crossing guards. I'm going to show you a couple of short introductory videos that you will also find on our website if you ever need a refresher. Here we go. Whoops. Each spring, spotted salamanders, wood frogs, and other amphibians migrate to their breeding habitat. The vernal pools and ponds their species have used for hundreds or perhaps thousands of years. Superimposed upon this ancient world, however, is a newer world of roads and cars. In areas where salamanders, frogs, and toads are forced to cross even moderately busy roads, populations of these animals are likely to disappear. Helping amphibians safely negotiate road crossings is imperative to their long-term survival. Here's where you come in. Become a salamander crossing guard. Helping salamanders is fun, but it's also important. It happens on rainy nights in late March and throughout the month of April when temperatures are above 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Salamanders wait until it's quite dark to move. Frogs may begin at dusk. Conditions can be difficult to predict. Sometimes it rains in the early afternoon but stays warm and humid throughout the evening. Or it's raining but cold. Sign up for BEEC's Salamander Hotline and we'll send you email alerts with our best predictions of when to go out. You will need these things: rain gear, at least some part of which should be light colored, a reflective vest, and other reflective materials such as a reflective armband or just reflective tape stuck to your clothing, a flashing clip-on light, a bright flashlight with fresh batteries. Bright lights can vastly increase your efficiency at finding and moving salamanders. Some volunteers have learned the hard way that an ordinary flashlight, especially one with waning batteries, might not reveal amphibians until you're upon them. If, on the other hand, you have a bright enough light, you can clearly see all amphibian movement over a large swath of road and can move quickly and confidently. Don't wait for the rain to start. Make sure you have a bright light and enough bulbs and batteries to keep it bright. You won't be sorry, and the salamanders will thank you. An example of a good flashlight is a lantern like this that uses a 6-volt lantern battery. Your typical 2D cell flashlight is probably adequate as long as it has fresh alkaline batteries. These small LED lights can be bright, but you'll find that the light isn't penetrating enough to help you see amphibians on the road. Headlamps are helpful, but you'll need a flashlight too. Make sure your hands are clean with no lotion or hand sanitizer. Salamanders readily absorb chemicals through their skin. The following items are also recommended. Salamander crossing signs help alert motorists to your activities. A spatula can be helpful for removing dead amphibians from the road so you don't count them twice while you're collecting data. And finally, a clean bucket is often used by volunteers when they have to move many salamanders at once. And now a second video on what to do when you get to your crossing site. So you've received the alert, you know where you're going, you have your supplies, the night has come. Salamanders usually don't begin their trek until it is dark. Frogs may begin at dusk. Because few of them live right next to the road, it may take some time for them to arrive at the crossing zone. Because any driving after dark must be done slowly, consider arriving at your site before dark. Time to read that book that's been on your list. If conditions are good but you see no salamanders, be prepared to wait. Often salamanders don't show up until after 9 p.m. If there's a site coordinator or other volunteers, check in. You can decide how best to cover the site and share data collection. Then, with a bright light, stride briskly along your stretch of road, sweeping the light from side to side. Always check the area by your feet when changing direction or resuming activity. It may take a number of passes to identify the crossing zone. Most crossing hotspots are about 2/10 of a mile in length, though more diffuse movement happens over longer stretches of road. When you find an amphibian, pick it up gently and move it across the road in the direction it was heading. If you're not sure, move it in the direction most of the other amphibians have been moving in. Keep your feet on the street. Since salamanders are very difficult to see once they're off the road, don't step off the road unless a car is passing. While getting salamanders safely across the road is our priority, keeping track of the numbers of amphibians and species observed will help us monitor population trends and organize crossing brigades more effectively. Fill out the data form and submit it. Cars pose hazards to humans as well as amphibians. Crossing guards assist salamanders on rainy and sometimes foggy nights, with a goal of keeping cars from hitting amphibians, a potentially dangerous mix. Please protect yourselves, motorists, and the amphibian crossing program by being prepared with safety gear in advance of migration nights. Traffic usually stops by 10:30 on weeknights or by 11:30 on Friday and Saturday, depending on your site. Your own schedule dictates what time you head home. Most crossing guards leave when the traffic slows. Check under your car for amphibians before you drive away, and remember to drive slowly on your way home. So a little of the information in that video is obsolete. That was made before we had rechargeable flashlights, different kinds of batteries, lithium batteries. But here's a few considerations to keep in mind if you're choosing a flashlight for a Salamander crossing. You want one that has a very bright but focused beam of light at probably at least 500 lumens. It really should be waterproof. And um, if it's easy to hold down at your side, you're going to have the best chance of seeing amphibians on the road. Something like this works really well. So I was doing a little salamander flashlight shopping today just to see what's out there now. And something like this might be great too. This is a $60-ish flashlight with a very focused beam that apparently illuminates a distance of up to 3,280 feet. But what I really like about it is that it's plug-in rechargeable that will run for over 12 hours on high mode. Oh no, 6 hours on high mode, 12 hours on low mode, and can be recharged in 6 hours. So that would work really well. But I would encourage you to just go to the local hardware store and see what they've got if you're going to be buying something new. Reflective vests, reflective vests. I can't stress this enough. It's so important. In this picture, you will see that we have one reflective vest and one just blaze orange hunter safety vest. But at least our crossing guard here is also wearing a clip-on flashing light. So these guys are doing a good job. But please, a safety vest for absolutely everyone in your group, or do not go out. Wrong direction. There we go. Some instructions for when a car is approaching. Do alert your fellow crossing guards. If anyone else is out there with you, just holler car and then step off the road. This can be difficult, especially if it's a busy night and you know there are frogs and salamanders. Um, the guidelines that we've been given over the years by the local constabulary, humans, people do have right of way on roads, but we are not allowed to interfere with the flow of traffic. So don't shine your lights at cars, don't try and slow them down. And tempting as it may be, please, please do not dash into the road in a heroic last minute attempt to save an amphibian unless you can see that that car is about to stop. But even so, wait till it stops. The roads can be slippery. You may not fully understand how difficult it is for drivers to see you on rainy nights. So please just abide by those guidelines, and everyone should have a great time out there. Just a few more tips about salamander handling. I like to pick these chunky guys up right around their middles. They're usually not moving too fast. You want to be aware that especially on warm nights, these amphibians are going to be extra wriggly and hoppy, and you want to carry them as low as you can in case they do manage to wriggle free. With frogs, I use the put your hand over them like a claw technique and encourage them to hop up into your hand, and then you can cover your hand. Those little tiny peepers can be so hard to see and so easy for them to escape. So you want to really have your hand cupped right over those guys. And here are some of the things you want to have ready beforehand. Now lined up by the road. One other thing that we have available at Bonnievale are some salamander crossing signs, and these are a big help. If you're going out for the first time, and we'll get to where you should go in a few minutes, and you find that there are no signs there, you should feel free to email me and I can try and put some signs out for you to take. And now I am going to take you over to the Bonnievale website to show you the resources that are available for you there throughout the Salamander Crossing season. I have to stop screen sharing for a moment and start up again. Oh, look at all you lovely people here to help the salamanders. Okay. There. Can you all see the web page? See if I can make it a little smaller. This is the landing page that you'll come to when you click a link on the home page. And I just want to point out to you these quick links that are over on the side here. They will take you to our crossing site map, our check the forecast page, our submit data page, and here, sign up for alerts. And I hope that you will all do that. I send out alerts every time during salamander crossing season when I think there's a chance amphibians will be out, and you might be very sick of me by the end of April. I try not to send too many, but it's my best guess as to when these amphibians are going to need your help. And from this page, you will click on this button, Become a Crossing Guard, to learn more. But before I forget, if we have any parents with children out there, this Saturday, March 29th from 10:30 to 12, there's going to be a salamander tea party at the library where our salamander mascot will be serving salamander cookies and reading storybooks. Now, become a crossing guard. On this page, I hope you will find all the resources you need. There's an announcement about tonight's training, copies of those 2 videos so you can see them again. And here are the steps to become a crossing guard. Sign up for alerts. That button will take you to a form that will get you on our salamander hotline list. Second and most important is choosing a site. And if you click this button, you come to our salamander crossing map. And scroll down, and underneath the map, you'll see another place to click to be taken to a full-size Google map. And on this map, we have these little salamander icons. I'm going to zoom out so you get a sense of the geographic range of sites that we are covering here. They go from one site on Huckle Hill Road that's actually in Massachusetts, all the way north to Athens. And of course, this is not a comprehensive list of crossing sites, but the sites that have a little red salamander icon are sites where we have a number of years of data. I'll zoom in again so you can see what that looks like, and you can get in to get some great detail on these maps so you can really orient yourself pretty well. Let's go down here to, well, why not? Let's try Orchard Street. You can zoom in and see there are wetlands on either side of the road here. The red line underneath this icon shows the crossing zone. Not every site has that. And if you click on the salamander, you learn that many spotted salamanders and frogs cross here on a busy night, and Jefferson salamanders too. It describes the traffic and that it's a family-friendly site. And I am going to take you all up to Westminster West Road right now, because anybody who's here and able to help in that area, that's That is one of the places where we could really use some help. Actually, we're going to stop partway to Westminster West Road. And Isla, if you're here, could you unmute yourself?
Hi.
Isla, we have a few very special people who are site coordinators. It's a big job. I encourage anyone who's feeling motivated enough by spotted salamanders to take on a job like that to let me know. But um, crossing site coordinators can help volunteers cover the sites better on crossing nights. So there are two sites here in Williamsville, just off of Route 30. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. There's Grimes Hill Road over here and Depot Road. I see they're calling it Williamsville Road here, but I know it is Depot Road. I'm not sure what its official name is. These are two of the busiest sites on a really good crossing night. Here, this site is especially a froggy night, so agile crossing guards are needed. I recommend anyone who's in Brattleboro and up for a challenge drive to one of these sites because there's very little amphibian traffic, alas, on Route 30. And these two sites could really use some volunteers, as well as this other site farther out in South Newfane. The people who used to own this pond have moved, and I don't think there's anyone doing crossings here, but this can also be a very busy site, and it's kind of a busy road. So those are a few sites that could really use some help. And now up to Westminster West. All the way up into Putney. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way. And we have Andrea here. Andrea, can you tell us some things about Westminster West crossing sites?
Sure thing, Patty. So we found last year there were a couple of really hot spots, and they cover quite a bit of territory. One of them is from where Gregg Road comes out onto Westminster West Road, which is just outside the main village as you're heading towards Saxon's River. There is a vernal pool that's right across from where Gregg Road junctions West Road. And as you travel north towards Saxon's River and you go past Right Way, which is that little road that's on the left there. You don't want to go too far up there, Patty.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Back here?
Yeah, not quite that far. If you can bring back down south a little bit.
Which way? South, north?
South. Yeah.
Okay, south.
Bring it back south a little bit. Okay. So just beyond, it's not less listed there, but it is a little road that's called Right Way. Yeah, that's the East Putney
Oh,
Brook.
there it is, Right Way.
Yep. And then you see that little town highway road thing that's right there. So it's between Gregg Road and I would say just south of that little town highway notation that's there on West.
Oh,
West
so
West
right
Road.
here.
Yeah. So that whole section, we had not just the wood frogs, but we had a lot of salamanders crossing. So that is a long section. We were doing our best with just a couple of people trying to keep walking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it was just impossible to try and keep up with them all. So there's that section. And now if we move south again, Patty, towards Putney and staying around West Road, I'll show you the next real big section that's pretty busy. I'm going to come to where Patch Road comes on to West Road. Okay, you see where there's a red salamander there. So from there until moving south again, we go to South Valley Road. Keep going right there. So that section there also is a hot spot between South Valley Road and Patch Road for frogs and salamanders. I only had one volunteer pretty much the whole time trying to cover that area, and he was just overwhelmed trying to keep up with it. I don't know if Darren's with us tonight, but he was such a trooper trying to cover that whole area that night. But yeah.
It used to be that there was a busy site. We called it the Temple Sawmill site down at the Putney Westminster town line. Do you know if there's still amphibians crossing there? It might be that pond doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah, I have no idea, to be honest with you. I've just been kind of localized in West the last few years, so I haven't gotten out that far.
Well, we could use some fresh data there. So if anyone is closer to Putney and wants to check out this site right next to Temple Sawmill and let us know if anything's happening there, that would be great.
Yeah.
All right. I am going to encourage you all to spend some time with this map if you don't already have a site picked out. And I encourage people to find the site that is closest to where you live, because it is so hard to see amphibians on the road on these rainy nights. I will tell you that you should be suspicious of any little pebbles or any short sticks that are in the road on rainy nights. And be prepared to brake, and always good to travel with a companion so one of you can drive and one can get out and check for amphibians. Okay, we're going to go back to the main website at this point. And if you don't happen to be in this area, or there is no site that is close to your home, this document that's posted here gives instructions for how to find salamander sites near you. Essentially, what you want to imagine is wetland on one side of the road and a forest on the other side of the road. And you're going to drive very, very slowly if you come to such a zone, about 15 miles an hour. Roll your window down, listen for peepers and wood frogs, and do head out on the Salamander Crossing nights. The first thing you're likely to see is carnage. So that is the sad part of amphibian crossing. You will see dead frogs and salamanders first. And then if you get out and count at a site where you do see amphibians, we would love to know about it and we can get you some help. Step number 3, learn to identify the amphibians that are going to be out there. And we have this little ID slideshow on the website. These are the big 4 that you're most likely to see around here on crossing nights: the spotted salamander, Jefferson salamander, spring peeper, and wood frog. And this salamander, there's really no mistaking it for anything else with those big yellow polka dots, and they're so huge. I have seen a couple that didn't have any spots, so just be prepared for weirdness in the animal world. You'll see on these slides that there's a comparison with other familiar salamanders, the size of a newt, the size of a spotted salamander. The Jefferson salamander is just a little bit smaller than spotteds. Their tails are flattened and keel-shaped. They have long toes. The other thing to know about these guys is that they hybridize like the Dickens with blue spotted salamanders, which will be coming up later. So many of the salamanders around here are Jefferson hybrids. And the frog category, we have these wood frogs. They're small, 1 to 2.5 inches. They're the color of leaf litter, and they're almost invisible in the summer. You only see them when they hop. Their characteristics are a black bandit mask. I love their dark mask. And these things called dorsolateral ridges on their back, a pair of these ridges. Some frogs have them, some don't. Wood frogs do. And our friend, the spring peeper, the tiny little spring peeper, these guys have got suction cups on their fingers. They used to be considered tree frogs, and now they're pseudo tree frogs. Um, they have a blotch on their back, kind of like a Rorschach test blotch, but also kind of X-shaped. And again, these guys are so hard to see, but it's such a treat when you do see them. And of course, on rainy nights, especially later in the season, you're going to see some other amphibians and you will want to identify them for your data sheet. So here are some of the others. Eastern newts. This is the red eft stage, the terrestrial stage, and these guys are not breeding at all. They're just wandering around the landscape, so they may just need a little hand across the road. Eastern redback salamanders very often travel from their overwintering sites to moister lowland sites. So you might see these crossing the road. These are completely terrestrial salamanders. They even lay their eggs on land and they develop completely in the egg into little miniature salamanders. They are really hard to pick up and they're really fast and squirmy. So this is another reason to have a spatula with you. You can sometimes herd them onto a spatula and then cup them in your hands. I don't see many of these in our region, but they're a very common salamander and they are on the move. This is one we get very excited about. From the top, the back, it looks a lot like a redback salamander. It's kind of a reddish brown salamander. They move more slowly. They're about the same size as a redback salamander. But if you look at their bellies, they're white with black freckles. And you'll also notice a little constriction at the base of their tail. These salamanders are one of the species that will drop their tail. So if you try and pick them up by the tail, you'll be left with a wriggling tail while the rest of the salamander heads off to wherever it's going. And these guys do breed in wetlands, so they are probably heading to wetlands. We would love to get four-toed salamander reports and photos. Blue spotted salamanders are gorgeous. They tend to be a more northern species, but we've had a few documented down here. And because they do hybridize so readily with the Jeffersons, it's hard to find a pure blue spotted salamander, but you can see these guys have bright blue spots all over, legs, back. And they're smaller than the spotted and Jefferson. And we would love to get pictures of pure blue spots too. This guy has not yet been found in Vermont. This is another one of the mole salamander group. That's blue spotted, yellow spotted, and Jeffersons are all mole salamanders. So these big chunky the salamanders, these guys breed in vernal pools in the fall, and they have been documented in Massachusetts, not too far from here. So they will show up in Vermont someday, and maybe you'll be the first person to see one, get a picture. Darn old toads. They just love to sit in the road because the roads are often still warm and just get them off the road. They will be laying eggs, but probably not until it gets substantially warmer, well into May. And oh, just in case anyone is confused about how you tell frogs from toads, toads have shorter hind legs. They're not leapers the way frogs are. They're just sort of hop along. And of course, they have all these dry, bumpy skin, these warts. They have black spots on their back that have warts in the black dots. And yes, they will pee when you pick them up, but you should pick them up anyway. Green frogs are often just out and about on rainy nights looking for food. They tend to stay near permanent bodies of water, but occasionally they'll show up at crossing sites. Like the wood frogs, they have dorsolateral ridges. They do not have a dark mask, but they do have a bright green lip. There's a lot of color variation in green frogs, but look for that green upper lip and a white belly and that dorsolateral ridge. Bullfrogs. Oh, let me go back to that green frog. Well, no, this is good. Instead of a dorsolateral ridge on a bullfrog, you'll see there's a little ridge that starts behind the eye and it curves around right behind their eardrum, kind of like they're wearing glasses. So no dorsolateral ridge. These can be really big frogs, but they might also just be the size of a green frog. They also have a green upper lip, but that ridge from their eye around their eardrum is a good diagnostic. I see a lot of these guys at my crossing site in Marlborough. Pickerel frogs are really grassland frogs, and they're very dapper little fellows. They've got these nice copper-colored rectangles on them. They have a bright yellow waistcoat on their bellies and near their legs, and they're not heading to breeding habitat. They're just out hopping around. Is that our last guy? That might be our last guy. Okay. So now that you can recognize all of the amphibians, and there really aren't that many, you'll be able to fill in your data sheet. Step 4 is watch the forecast. And if you click this button here, it will take you to the Salamander forecast page. If you haven't gotten an email from me and you're wondering, you can check here. And I will have my best guesses on upcoming possibilities. So you all know this weekend is going to be crazy. Here's just a little introduction to the key. A yellow salamander icon. Activity is possible. So watch your local conditions. If it's orange, that's a little more promising and you should really be prepared. And a red salamander is excellent forecast for amphibians. This Saturday, it's supposed to start raining. In fact, I think it's supposed to start sometime Friday night, but it's going to be coldish. If the temperature is around 40 near your sites on Saturday night and you're inclined to go out and check, I would encourage you to do so. It would be great to have that information because it is supposed to rain all day. These guys are going to be primed to go. Sunday, it's going to just keep raining according to the forecast, but it's going to get really cold and we might have some freezing rain overnight. It doesn't look like Sunday will be warm enough for amphibians. However, Monday, even up in Marlborough, where I am, a high elevation area, they're predicting the evening temperatures will be close to 50 degrees and rain, rain, rain. So I'm thinking it could be a big night all over the place. Stay tuned. So once you know the forecast, let's see here. Go back to step number 5, get all of your gear together. We've reviewed all of this already. Also good to bring a camera. Step number 5 is count and report. And as we said, getting the salamanders and other amphibians across the road is our most important service. But if we have numbers, that helps us to do a better job of predicting when migrations will happen in the future. And if there are sites where there are an overwhelming number of amphibians, it might be possible eventually to get an underpass for them. It also helps us know where to send volunteers on crossing nights. So here are some more quick links. This will take you to the field data sheet that you saw in the video. I'll just show you again what that looks like. And you don't need to fill in this data sheet. You just have to have this information on a piece of paper. And if you're writing in the rain, you're going to want a pencil instead of a pen. But we'd like to know where you were, what time you started, what time you ended, the date, the weather, the temperature, and then if you can keep track of the numbers of each species, we like to have counts of live and dead. And if you do encounter dead amphibians and are able to move them off the road, that is great because it keeps them from being counted twice. So spotted salamander, Jefferson, redback, newt. Oh, wait a minute. We've got redback twice here. Well, you never know. Four-toed salamander, other or unknown salamander, wood frogs, peepers, other frogs, and toads. And then, if as soon as you get home or first thing the next morning, you remember, and I know how easy it is to forget, please just click this button and we have a simple Salamander Crossing report that will dump your numbers into our spreadsheet. And that makes it so easy to report out to all of you what happened out there. And keep track of all that important information. So helpful. Okay, and back again. And this link is not working yet, but it will. We would love to have your pictures to share, not only of unusual species, but of yourselves having fun out there at your crossing site. And we trust that any photos that you share through this portal are ones that you are happy to have us share with other people as well. And down here is just another word about signs. So again, once you choose a site, I encourage you to contact me and I can let you know if they're likely to be a site coordinator at that site, if you are likely to need signs. And I'm going to have a pile of signs on the porch here at the Bonnievale Farmhouse in West Brattleboro. Let me know if you think you'll need one. And also on this web page are a couple of other handy dandy links, like this one especially, the Vermont Reptile and Amphibian Atlas. If you do see anything strange out there and report it to us, we will also report it to them, but there's a shortcut just for you.
So, Patty, could I add something to
Yes, please.
address? A couple of people in the chat mentioned that they were in areas outside of your map. And I would recommend, because the amphibians are going to the vernal pools, that people check out the Vernal Pool Atlas, which is a Vermont Center for Eco Studies project, where they've mapped the vernal pools in the state, first from satellite photos of where there appear to be pools, and then they have them color coded if people have actually confirmed on the ground that they are vernal pools. So you can even contribute to that map by letting the organizers know if you can confirm a vernal pool actually exists on the ground. So I put that in the chat, and that's a good place to try to deduce where some of these crossings might happen.
I guess we're at the stage where, are there other questions in the chat, Jill?
There were a few people wondering how to get in touch with coordinators who might be in their area.
Okay. Well, first thing you should do is send me an email and then I can connect you with a known coordinator or let you know if you want to go to a site where you're likely to find other people, I can point you in the right direction. We don't have many sites with official coordinators. We have Isla and Andrea, but I can advise. Anyone who needs to leave and doesn't have any questions, feel free to exit, and thank you for coming. And anyone who does have questions, feel free to linger and we will do our best to answer them. I see a hand up. Anne Henshaw.
Am I allowed to unmute to
Yes,
ask?
please unmute.
Okay. So my daughter and I have been watching this. We learned about you all last year, and I think we missed out. We're in an area where we're just north of all of your spots on the map, and I've been trying to look through the atlas, not the Vernal Pool Atlas, but there's another one. I'm not having any luck finding anything already, marked. Can you expand a little on how to basically find our own, see if we can find an area? There's a pond a pond next to our Dollar General that makes a lot of the I hear the peepers. I guess I'm just wondering where we can find to help our community. We're in Chester, so
Chester.
near Springfield, Andover.
Yeah.
I mean, we
Oh,
could drive to the Grafton. We could drive to lower to the, south of the Grafton area, and we'll do that. But obviously, it's also a good thing to try and find, to keep expanding that map.
yeah, I would
I
encourage
just
you to
would,
look there.
yeah. Um, I'd like to look here if possible, because I've got some kids, some friends and kids who are interested in, getting out there and seeing how we can, do some good.
Well, one tip is that you are less likely to find amphibian crossings on really busy roads because those populations are gone already. So a medium busy road would be great. And I
Do I look
recommend,
for, sorry, do I go on do I use Google Maps and look for
yeah,
like,
that would be perfect. Any small pond
okay, any small
that's
pond?
near some woods as
And
well.
I saw you mentioned, I'm sorry, I'm taking too long. I saw that you mentioned on the map wetlands are in those heavily wooded areas. Is it what designates a wetland? We're new. We've moved here 2 years ago. So we're from a totally different biome, I guess you could say. So this is all
Oh,
new to
yeah.
us.
Oh, that's
So
great.
yeah. So on the map, do we look at heavily wooded areas and those kind of match the wetland zones? What?
No, I would look for small bodies of open water. So
Okay.
those black spots on the map.
Okay. So they're not necessarily moving from, we thought they were moving from like creeks and streams into vernal pond. They're moving from literally under the ground into,
Yeah.
okay,
Yep. They're
great.
moving from
I
woods.
was looking for an apex of like creek. Okay, great. That opens up. Maybe I'll have luck this year.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think you
Thank you.
will.
Listen
Thank
for
you.
the wood frogs, especially.
Yeah,
Yeah.
what the Dollar General is the pond next to, and I'm like, where are they coming from? How can we help them? But clearly they're making it because it's so loud and wonderful for so long. So thank you.
Other questions? Just feel free to unmute yourself and jump right in because I can't see.
Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm from
Hi,
Chester
Stephanie.
too.
Oh,
And
yay.
actually, and I have a couple of spots that I'm dying to check out.
We're in.
So,
We're in.
yeah, there's the road to Grafton has
Yes.
this one spot there. They're so loud that it's deafening. The
One night we drove
peepers.
to Grace Cottage Hospital, and I was like, I know
Yeah,
we're creating a squish zone. I was like, we have to stop because we were on the way to
yeah.
the hospital. I was like, this has to be a zone. Yeah.
And then
Oh,
there
great.
is some vernal pools up on Church Street, so we can always try that too.
Let's do this together. Okay, great.
Oh, very
Yeah.
exciting.
Yes, but I would love to work with the Westminster group first, just to get a feel for how it should go.
We'd love to have you, Stephanie.
Okay, great.
Yeah. I put
Can we
my
come too?
email in the
Of
chat.
course, we'll carpool.
Can we come too? Okay, great.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys, I put
And
my
our-
email in the chat.
Our
So
older kids welcome if they're able to follow directions well and stay dialed
yeah,
in.
as long as they've got reflective gear on,
Oh, yeah,
they
absolutely.
they listen well and
Absolutely.
follow directions because we want everybody to be safe out there.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Great. Oh, I'm so excited.
Awesome.
Anyone else?
Patty, this is Mary.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, Patty. And I remember years ago, Miss Deb Smith talking about how we needed to keep the dead ones close enough to the road for the crows to find them. She was really big on not wasting those dead bodies and having good food for the crows. Do you have any suggestions on that?
That's a point. They tend to be found. There is a whole slew of cleanup critters that come through, and I bet even if you put them farther away, a raccoon will find them with their raccoony noses.
Okay. All
Yeah, I
right.
don't think anything's going to waste out there.
Yeah, I think you're right.
She was just so emphatic about that we needed
For the
to keep
crows.
for the crows to keep them visible for the crows. So
And you could also, if I could, this is Mike, throw them on a rock or a fence post or something like that, and
Oh, yeah.
they'll find
there's
them
that.
just fine.
that's a good idea, Mike. That's
That
a
was
good
my
idea.
wife's idea, to be very clear.
Ah,
We were talking about it. I will give her credit.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Right.
I'm out.
Hey, Patty,
I have a-
I did see, I'm sorry, Andrew, there was a question about whether BEEC had extra reflective vests anywhere that they lend out for this.
I can probably come up with one or two. They are really pretty cheap, like $5 to $10 at a hardware store. But if that is prohibitive, anyone can just let me know and I'll do my best to find you one.
Okay, so they could call BEEC.
Yeah,
and
we
leave
don't
a
have
message.
a big stash of them or anything like that, but
Yeah. Okay.
I had a question about the red Fs.
Yeah.
Had heard for a long time that it wasn't okay to touch them because of the oils on our hand,
Oh,
but I
thank
didn't
you for bringing that up.
hear anything about that in your talk
That
about each species.
Yeah, that is one of those rumors that gets spread around by grown-ups who don't want kids bothering amphibians. Um, they do, of course, have permeable skin and are very susceptible to toxins, but we don't really have any oil on our skin that's going to cause them any harm. It is, of course, a good idea to minimize handling of these amphibians because they'll be stressed, but yeah, you don't really have to worry about hurting them just by picking them up.
Great. Okay, thanks.
I have a quick question for you, Patty. I've had some people ask about gloves, just because your fingers get cold after a while. And are gloves okay to use?
Yes, some people like to use nitrile gloves, and I think that's fine as long as they're not the powdered ones.
Right.
I have sometimes used gloves. It's harder to handle some of those little guys, but yeah, it's cold.
Yeah.
Anyone else? And please do feel free, as I've said, to email me with any questions about different sites. I'm so excited to see so many of you here because we can really use help and we can really use some numbers.
I do see someone asking in the chat, do they need to tell someone what site they're picking?
It would be handy to know because
Yeah.
then I can be more strategic in telling other people where to go. It's not a requirement by any means, but it would be handy to know.
So you want us to email you, Patty, so that even if
Yeah.
we've signed up for this training, so if I email you and say I'm going to be in the West group,
When I send out my next alert, and it will be sometime in the next couple days, there's also a button on there to encourage you to sign up for the year. And on that form, you can say which site you're most likely to go to and where you live.
Okay.
And so you could do that instead. That might be a shortcut. All right, then if there's nothing else, I will bid you all a good night and look forward to hearing from you, all the reports from the field.
All right. Thanks, Patty. Thanks, Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Patty.
everybody.
Thank you,
all.
Jill.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.